Welcome to this lesson. Now that we've covered what ERP is and why companies use it, it's time to look at how SAP ERP works behind the scenes. In this lesson, we'll explore how SAP ERP operates using standard business processes, and we'll see an example of those processes in action at Pepsi with an emphasis on real-time data integration. We'll also touch on a key question every company has: how do we tailor SAP ERP to our needs? In other words, the difference between configuring the system versus customizing it. By the end of this lesson, you should have a clear picture of what makes SAP ERP tick and how it can adapt to different businesses without reinventing the wheel each time. Have you ever wondered how a single software system can fit a retailer, a manufacturer, and a soda company like Pepsi without being built from scratch for each one? Let's find out. Are you ready to dive in and see what makes SAP ERP so flexible yet powerful? Let's get started. One of the greatest strengths of SAP ERP is that it comes with pre-designed business processes based on industry best practices. SAP ERP isn't coded from scratch every time a new company like Pepsi or any other implements it. Instead, SAP has built the software over decades, learning from thousands of successful companies about what works best. These tried and true methods are baked into the system. You can think of SAP ERP as a blueprint or template for how to run common business tasks, such as processing an order, managing inventory, handling payroll, closing the books at month end, and so on. Because these processes are standardized, they are reliable and efficient. SAP continually updates the software with improvements, and all customers benefit from those updates. This means when Pepsi uses SAP ERP, they're not only leveraging their own expertise, but also the collective experience of many organizations that have contributed to SAP's best practices. Why is using a standard approach beneficial? Imagine if every time a company wanted an ERP system, they had to hire developers to reinvent the entire order to cash process or the entire purchasing process from the ground up. That would be like designing a new car engine for every car you build, not very efficient. By using SAP's built-in processes, Pepsi can implement the system faster and trust that the processes have been tested and optimized over years. For example, SAP ERP already knows how a typical sales order process should flow. Create an order, check credit, reserve inventory, ship goods, bill the customer, and record accounting entries. Pepsi doesn't need to create that process from nothing. They can use the standard process and adjust it to their needs. This also ensures a level of consistency. A sales order in SAP follows the same general steps, whether it's Pepsi or another company, making it easier to understand and support. Another benefit of SAP's best practice approach is continuous improvement. As business requirements evolve, say new regulations or new industry practices, SAP updates its software and those improvements become available to Pepsi and other users. It's like having a team of expert process consultants built into your software. Of course, every business is a little different. We'll talk about adapting the system soon, but the core processes, often called standard SAP processes, give you a strong, battle-tested starting point. This reliability is crucial. Wouldn't you feel more comfortable driving a car with an engine design that's been proven in millions of vehicles rather than a one-of-a-kind prototype? Similarly, companies feel more comfortable running operations on a system that has been proven across many industries. It reduces risk and saves time. So, when Pepsi rolled out SAP ERP, They didn't have to teach the software how to handle a customer order from scratch. Instead, they would configure SAP's existing sales and distribution module to fit Pepsi's product lines, pricing, and approval rules. The underlying process, receive order, check, fulfill bill, is already built in and optimized. This concept applies to other areas too: procurement, buying raw materials, production, finance, and so on, all come with established processes in SAP ERP. Let me ask you a question to ponder. How do you think using standard processes might help a company quickly get new employees or new departments up to speed? It certainly helps when the system follows common patterns that people can learn and predict. We talked in the first lesson about how ERP integrates data in real time. Now, let's focus on SAP ERP specifically and dig a bit deeper into that real-time integration using another Pepsi scenario to illustrate. One of SAP ERP's greatest strengths is that all departments share a single unified system. This means when something happens in one part of the business, everyone who needs to know knows right away because the data updates in real time in the central database. Let's revisit our Pepsi order example, but this time with a bit more emphasis on how SAP handles it instantaneously. Imagine a Pepsi sales representative in Los Angeles enters a new order from a regional grocery chain for 500 cases of Gatorade, one of PepsiCo's products. The moment this sales order is saved in SAP ERP, a bunch of things happen behind the scenes within milliseconds. First, SAP immediately checks the available inventory in the system for Gatorade. Perhaps it finds that a Pepsi warehouse plant in California has 300 cases ready and another warehouse in Arizona has 400 cases. So, yes, the stock exists to fulfill the 500 cases. It's just split across two locations. This check is instantaneous. The sales rep can see the availability right in the order screen as they input the order. They don't have to call the warehouse. SAP ERP already knows the inventory status. Once inventory is confirmed, SAP automatically allocate those 300 cases from California and 200 from Arizona to this order. Now those 500 cases are marked as reserved for this customer in the system. If another salesperson tries to sell the same stock, they'll see it's no longer available. This prevents double selling inventory because everyone is looking at the same up-to-date inventory data. Now, SAP automatically triggers production or purchasing processes. Suppose that after allocating, the California warehouse is left with only, say, 50 cases of Gatorade in stock, which is below the threshold Pepsi likes to keep on hand. SAP can automatically create a planned order for production to replenish Gatorade at the bottling plant or generate a purchase requisition if Gatorade was sourced from a supplier. In our case, Gatorade is produced by PepsiCo, so it would likely trigger a production plan at the appropriate plant. The planners in the production department see this requirement immediately on their SAP screens for production scheduling. No one had to send them a memo. The system took care of it. Next, let's look at how SAP captures the financial impact of confirmed orders. As soon as the sales order is confirmed, SAP ERP can also record a sort of expected revenue in the system. It won't be finalized in the books until the order is delivered and invoiced, but the finance team can see the order in the pipeline. If there are credit limits or budget checks needed, for instance, making sure the customer is allowed to buy on credit that amount, SAP handles those checks automatically too, right when the order is entered. Then, SAP handles scheduling for manufacturing and deliveries. The warehouse and distribution folks get a notification to start packing and shipping those 500 cases. SAP ERP has modules for warehouse management and shipping that will create tasks for workers, like pick 300 cases in California warehouse and prepare them for loading on a truck, and do the same for 200 cases in Arizona. It might even optimize the delivery route or consolidate it with other deliveries if possible. Meanwhile, the production module might schedule a new batch of Gatorade to be produced next week to replenish what's being shipped. Finally, SAP provides managers with real-time visibility across operations. If a manager in PepsiCo's headquarters looks at the SAP dashboard, they might immediately see that an order for 500 cases was entered, that inventory has been allocated, and that production orders have been scheduled to maintain stock levels. They're seeing this in real time, not the next day or week, it's now. This high level of integration is what enables Pepsi to operate efficiently. Let's say right after this order, another big order comes in. Without an integrated system, Pepsi might accidentally promise more product than it has, or scramble to make more without a clear plan, or overspend on overtime. With SAP ERP, however, each new development is recorded and shared instantly, helping prevent those problems. Now, let me ask you a reflective question. Can you imagine the challenge of coordinating all these activities without a system like SAP ERP? What if Pepsi's production team was using a program that didn't automatically update the inventory seen by the sales team? It would be very easy to get out of sync. With SAP ERP, integration is built in, so everyone can trust the information. Real-time data means real-time business. Pepsi can make decisions on the fly with confidence because the data they see is current. In the fast-moving consumer goods world, that's a huge advantage. Now that we know SAP ERP comes with powerful standard processes and real-time integration, you might be wondering, how does SAP ERP accommodate the unique needs of each company? After all, Pepsi's way of doing business isn't exactly the same as, say, a hospital or a car manufacturer. The key lies in how you set up or tailor the system. In SAP ERP, there are two main ways to tailor it: configuration and customization. Configuration is like adjusting the settings of SAP ERP to match a company's requirements without changing the underlying code. Think of it like customizing your phone by changing settings as opposed to rewriting the phone's software. SAP ERP has a ton of settings, often called configuration tables or options, that let you define how processes work for your company. For example, Pepsi can configure its ERP system to handle multiple currencies: USD for US operations, CAD for Canadian operations, etc. Define its organization structure, specify tax rates for each country, and establish rules like if a customer order is over X amount, it requires manager approval. All of this is done through menus and forms in SAP's configuration interface, sometimes called SAP IMG, implementation guide, rather than writing new software code. Configuration is powerful. By toggling flags and inputting parameters, you essentially teach SAP ERP about Pepsi's business specifics. It's still using the standard processes underneath, but in a way that's fine-tuned to Pepsi's needs. On the other hand, customization in the SAP world, often referred to as custom development, means altering the software beyond what standard configuration allows, typically by writing new code or programs. SAP ERP is designed to minimize the need for custom code. because it provides so many options out of the box. However, no software can anticipate 100% of every company's needs. Sometimes Pepsi might have a very unique requirement that SAP doesn't support directly. For example, imagine Pepsi has an internal process so special that no standard ERP supports it. Maybe a proprietary way of managing beverage formulas that they consider a trade secret and they want a specialized module for it. In such cases, SAP provides ways for developers to add extensions or modifications. This is customization. It could involve writing new reports, creating custom transaction screens, or even small enhancements like an extra field that's not available by default. It's important to note that while customization can deliver exactly what a business wants, it comes with trade offs. Too much customization can make the system more complex to maintain. Every time SAP releases an update or upgrade, custom code needs to be checked and possibly adjusted to ensure it still works. It's like if you heavily modify a car, the standard service parts might not fit anymore, and every service requires special attention. That's why most companies, Pepsi included, prefer to use configuration as much as possible to meet their needs. You'd be surprised how flexible the standard system is when you use the configuration options. Only when something truly can't be achieved through configuration will a company opt for a custom solution. We've covered a lot in this lesson. We saw how SAP ERP is built on best practice processes that thousands of companies use, making it reliable and quick to implement. We explored how SAP's integrated real-time nature ensures that at Pepsi, when something happens in one corner of the business, the whole organization can know about it and respond immediately. And we discussed how Pepsi or any company can tailor SAP ERP through configuration, setting the system up to match their operations, and when needed, customization. By now, you should have a clearer picture of how SAP ERP actually works and why it's so powerful in handling day-to-day operations. It's not just about software, it's about adopting proven processes and uniting the company's data. Think back to our examples. Orders flowing seamlessly, inventory and production talking to each other, and the ability to tweak the system for Pepsi's specific needs. Let me ask you a reflective thought. Can you identify any processes in your organization that would benefit from this kind of integration? How might using a system like SAP ERP change the way different teams in your company collaborate?